Ja, så velkommen til en ny episode af en Pilgrimspræsts dagbog. Og det her, det er så episode 2 med Helm fra England, som er i Danmark for at hjælpe os med at blive bedre til noget, der hedder åndelig vejledning og åndelig følgeskab. Og i det hele taget omkring at være, kan man sige, have en fordybelsesdimension, så troen også er en slags erfaret hengivelsesvirkelighed, og ikke kun nogle hovedting, kan man sige, nogle sandheder, man prøver at holde fast i hovedet. Og vi har talt om, I'll go to, Nick taler på engelsk, og I'll speak in English. So we have been talking about this, Nick's own experience with entering into this area of losing one's sense of way and direction and power, and this, in a sense, dying to all what I thought I knew and could and how life was, and how he got so incredible, wonderful help from a spiritual director and also a retreat house. And of course, here we're trying also to learn from these people who have traveled some of the way and to help us find hope and find direction for our future journey. So Nick, welcome back here in episode 2 here in our big studio at Ådalen Retreat House, and we talked about this, how you were received and helped in your turmoil. So it really heartfelt, warming and wonderful that there actually were people there to help you when you were in trouble, and you were not taken you were helped and protected and honored, and even in your state of vulnerability. And that's really wonderful to hear this quality of human kindness and ability. So and now, now you were kind of got a little more ground on your feet, or you got a little reorientation, and from this your spiritual director and your retreat there, and of course the world was still the reality, but in a sense you had been on some, formational journey already when you went away for this retreat, and then so what happened? You came back, and of course everything wasn't new, but something was new.
Yeah, I came back from the retreat feeling a very different person.
Yes.
What I'd experienced on the retreat at first was all about going even deeper into the darkness, in fact, which was no fun. And it felt very dark. And what was surprising me in that was I was very familiar with kind of therapeutic models of working with people who were in emotional pain and discomfort. And what shocked me at first on the retreat was that my retreat guide didn't try and do any therapeutic work with me. I was thinking, she's listening to me, she's letting me say where I am and how I'm feeling and what I'm hoping for from this retreat. And then she's giving me a sheet of paper with some passages from scripture. Why isn't she doing more work with me?
Yeah, fix me,
yeah. And it was like, oh, what's that about? But I was so low, I could do nothing. I wouldn't challenge that at that point. I wouldn't question it. I just took it. And the next day she came back and said, well, what did you make of those verses? And there were a lot of verses on that sheet that, you know, straight from the Bible, things that described God who loved people, loved individuals in different ways. And I'd read most of it and thought, yeah, great, so what? It's not what I feel. But there was one verse that had made me cry. And the verse was from John's Gospel, from the passage about him talking about, I'm the vine, you are the branches. Remain in my love. And that made me cry. I didn't think that was significant.
No, at that point.
At that point, now I know different.
Yeah.
And so when she came back the next day and said, what do you make of those? I said, well, they're fine. Nice verses. That one made me cry. But and she went, that one made you cry? Yeah, okay. And she didn't do any more than that at that point, really, other than say, it sounds like there's a lot of pain in you. And I said, yeah, there's a lot of pain in me. And she said, well, maybe you need to find a way of expressing that. And I went, really? But over the next couple of days, she really helped me just to kind of name the pain, and what also was coming was not just pain but anger, she really encouraged me to find ways of speaking that, expressing it to God. Now, I didn't find expressing my emotions very easy. I found it even harder to express anger, because that was a no-no in my family. No way was that acceptable. So she was encouraging me to do something that was really against all I'd been brought up to how to behave.
Yes, and then even with God. Yeah.
And to say it to God, well, that was a new thing. You were nice to God.
Yes, yes.
You asked for God's forgiveness and you gave God praise, and that was about it.
Yes. And try to behave.
And you tried to behave well, and do good things, and work hard.
Yes.
So it was. She was all the time in a very gentle and loving way. By her listening and her encouragement, she was breaking my worldview quite drastically, quite profoundly. Yeah. And what really did it was taking her seriously in that encouragement, and going for a walk up a mountain. And as I walked up this mountain, which was very steep and very hard work, getting myself in touch with the anger within. And when I got to the top, the anger was bursting out of me.
Yeah.
And the top of this mountain, which was kind of a dome shape, was very rocky, lots of stones of different sizes and rocks. And I just begun picking these rocks up and flinging them as hard as I could in anger.
Yeah.
And just
expressing
it. Yeah. And there weren't many words. There was a huge amount of emotion in all of that, and energy.
You were a reservoir of energy.
Well,
angry.
it was like the cork had popped out
Yeah,
of this
yes,
bottle
yeah,
and it just exploded.
yes,
And I needed a safe place to do it because I just couldn't have let myself do it where there were other people who might see me or hear me
but also the physical part.
the physical was a hugely important part of that. And I, was in sobbing at the end of it and spent and yet also released. And I was exhausted, but there was a lighter feel to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So this I am on this vine. I can stay in this love. She could see your heart was connected in a sense, but you were all
yeah,
you needed to be could you say, accept your own could you say personhood or
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean that passage, that verse, really wasn't in my mind
No.
through all of this.
No,
It was,
no, I understand. But she
but
recognized you knew.
I think she'd picked it up.
Yeah,
I look back and I can see what she was doing,
yeah,
and she'd picked it up and was just in herself. She was holding that as the thread
yes.
that was might be the way.
But I also get interested in this because I have also been helped by women. And sometimes we say, well, we need the man to help the man in a sense. But of course but it seems like we need both sometimes. Because here you were helped by a man, your director, but he sent you to a woman.
Well, he didn't, but that's how it worked out.
Yes, and it was helpful too. She was able to help you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
so you could receive from both men and women. So it's not either or.
Absolutely, not in my mind. No, not at all.
No.
I've been helped by men. I've been helped by women. I've been not helped by men.
Yeah.
I've been not helped by women.
Yeah, it's not a gender issue.
It's not a gender issue. It's something else.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. That's why I guess more female directors than men, but we need both, definitely.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. Yeah, well, it's so good to hear there's, help to get, because often I talk with people, if they have had it has not been easy during their childhood, and then somehow they, undisturbed, continue the same pattern in the church family, and then they end up double hurt.
Yeah.
And so I also get comforted when I hear stories like yours that actually there was possibility of getting help and not just keeping on this painful journey. So this, could you say, you became more a whole person. You could receive your own anger, your pain, your struggle, your world,
what that did, I think, was gave me a greater freedom to be who I was.
Yes.
Having expressed my anger, and my pain in a way that I'd never felt free to do before. I was freer in that.
Yes, yes.
But it wasn't. That was only the beginning of
was.
the real change.
It's not a quick fix. I can hear that. One leads to the other. It was a new road to travel, or reorientation.
These are stages or steps along that road.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But the next step happened.
Yes. So tell me about it.
The next step happened quite quickly because I went back at the end of that day and met with my retreat guide and told her what I'd done, and she heard that. She took it seriously and seemed encouraging about it. But she said, I wonder whether tomorrow you might pray with a passage of scripture. Now, actually, this was the first time she talked about prayer with me. I knew on the retreat that was what we did, and the beginning of the retreat had introduced a whole load of ways of praying. But for me, I mean, all of what I'd done had been prayer, really.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have named it as prayer at that point. But I thought, okay, yeah, I'm feeling a bit freer. And she said, well, why don't you take the baptism of Jesus passage? I can't remember whether it was Matthew, Mark or Luke, it doesn't matter. But she said, in your imagination, let yourself join Jesus in Nazareth as he's saying goodbye to Mary and Joseph and the people there, and heading off to the River Jordan. There's only a verse in the Bible that describes this, so it leaves a lot for your imagination. But then walk with Jesus and talk with him. And then when you get to the River Jordan, maybe you let yourself be baptized at this, with him alongside or after. See what happens. It's very vague, very open. Have a go.
Yeah.
Okay. So I spent most of the day taking a walk and talking with Jesus. And the first half of the walk, I was saying, so Jesus, what's happening for you? What's happening in your life? Why have you left Nazareth? How does it feel to be taking this journey into, what do you know? I don't know. And kind of being a good pastor to him.
Yeah, yes. That's right. You were his pastor.
Yeah, well, what arrogance, hey? I can pastor Jesus. My goodness. But it wasn't because I had arrogance. It was actually because I was avoiding talking to him about me.
Yeah. You
So
kept it over there.
keep the attention. That was my game in life.
Yeah.
I put the attention on the other so that I don't have to be exposed, vulnerable, etc. And of course, somewhere along the way, he turns and says, "And what about you, Nick?" And I'm going, "Okay, I better tell you." And I did start telling him, and that was really good to say. And I was telling him about the pains that had come out, that I was becoming aware of how my upbringing had left me with this kind of fragility and isolation and anger, and just saying to him, I want to be healed. I want something's got to change.
Yes.
And he turned to me and said, "And I want that for you too, Nick." Which was wow. He wants something positive for me. Sort of deep breath and deep encouragement from that. And we hadn't got to the River Jordan yet. But at that point, that was kind of enough. And so the walk ended, I went back to the house and thought, I must do the River Jordan. Maybe I'll do that after supper. Maybe after supper I'll have a bath, and I can imagine myself in the River Jordan in the bath.
Yeah.
Which I thought was quite a clever idea.
Yes, well.
So that's what I did. And when I said yes, when John said, "Do you want to be baptized?" and he shoved me under the water, and I went under the water in the bath and slid down the bath, and the water slid up my nose.
Yes,
And I came up choking and spluttering and, and was hearing this voice from heaven saying, Nick, you are my son.
Yeah.
And that was the most transforming thing I think I've ever experienced.
Yes. Yeah. The Son of God.
I am his son. And it felt like I was loved by God in a way I'd known. People had told me you're loved by God.
Yeah.
That's great in the head, but it doesn't hit the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that experience that hit my heart.
Yes.
And that changed me.
Yeah.
I was free, I was alive, I was beloved, I was in his love.
Yeah.
Remain in my love. Well, I'd not known I was in that love in quite the same way as I was now in his love.
Yeah.
I think, why it made me cry? Because I wanted it. I wanted to feel it. I needed it. And here I was being given it, receiving it. And, the next words of that line are, in whom I am well pleased. Well, I didn't really hear those words because the love was enough.
Yeah, you knew.
And suddenly I was light and alive and free of all this stuff of, all I'd been saying to Jesus the day before about, or that earlier that day about what I wanted to be free of.
Yeah.
Just like
just a coat or something just slipped off.
Yeah.
So this is really like born again, or the spirit of childhood. It was an experience. It was not in a book. It was written on the heart, and even with fire and light. And oh, that's wonderful. What a yes, you were really adopted into God's family, God's being child of God.
It wasn't that that was the point I was adopted. That was the point I knew I was adopted.
Yes, yes. It was you who were.
I was
who
discovering
needed, yes. It was
a
not,
truth
yes.
that I'd not known for myself, or not comprehended, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think I'd always been adopted in God's love, but I've never been helped to receive it.
No, that's right.
People have told me it's words, but
yes, it
was experience.
Yes, experience.
And I went back from that retreat alive, full of an extraordinary joy and lightness. And my ministry was utterly different because I was no longer feeling the burden of all of that and struggling under it. I could listen to people, I could accept their pain when it was directed at me, even though I didn't deserve it. It was okay. It didn't really land on me anymore because they were actually, I was seeing them expressing it to God rather than, and I was just there for God in that process.
Yeah, so you could be there, like could you say in Christ you were just continuing His could you say, ministry or way of being in the world?
I think so. I mean, it sounds a bit potentially arrogant or kind of big-headed to do that, but it wasn't that I was trying to do that. It was just what was happening,
Yes.
how it was. I just was aware of feeling so kind of free that I didn't take things personally. And I could let people be who they were.
Yes.
Because I felt so accepted by God, I could accept others in their brokenness and in their good and bad behaviour, if you like.
Yes. Yes, you were rooted in another realm, in this unity, in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So, and that was unshakable, and people couldn't take it away, and they couldn't give it to you. But you could be there, indifferent. That's
exactly what I was experiencing.
Yes.
I didn't know what indifference was in spiritual direction terms then, but I do now. And that was the part of the gift that this was produced in me.
I think this is very important. Paul, I guess, called it also the ministry of the new covenant. That this is of another realm in this realm, and this experience. Could you say based? Is so important. Of course, it has to be a gift, but it's also something we could aim for. We could put our intention. I want to develop this relationship. And that, of course, that's what you've been. You are here for in Denmark. So I say this is your new diocese here in Denmark. That after you have trained a little bit in England here some years, now you take on, well, it's just my fun, but take on Denmark. But we definitely need this because of we have lost our way in that sense, and when this huge reality is made available, it's really important that we are helped, as you say. I was not helped to take hold of it, and when somebody helped me, I could actually come to that place. So in that sense, it's approachable, but you need help to develop this relationship. Yes, Nick, thank you for sharing here also from your heart, and it's still alive. This living spirit is alive in you and keeping you, could you say, in this loving contact with yourself. Also, you men out there, if we don't take care of us, men at our old age will get old and stiff. But if we keep ourselves in the spirit and open to the world and God's world, we will be alive and able to enjoy life and sense life and give life, and that's also a very hopeful thing, that life is for here and for heaven. But we don't have to wait for it. We can kind of take part of it here. So mixed informations will be at the information area just under the video, and Årdalen Retreat House is placed in a little west of Randers, city of Randers, and it's open for business. If you go to Årdalenretræte.dk or just Google Årdalen Retræte, there'll be different kind of retreats and stuff, and so don't hesitate to get on board and establish something of worth and value, of companionship and accompaniment in your life. So it's ready for you, both when you don't need it, but definitely also when you really need it. So Tak for, at I så med her på en Pilgrimspræsts dagbog, og velkommen til en ny episode på et senere tidspunkt. Vi har hele tiden nye mennesker, der kommer ind og har skønne historier om, at der er håb, der er mulighed for udvikling, der er transformation. Det er slet ikke hverken slut eller aflyst, det begynder hele tiden på ny. Så tak for den her gang.